Berlin, seen from above, a city shaped by history and diversity. The name Berlin likely comes from a Slavic origin, often linked to an old Slavic word interpreted as swamp or marshland, a reference to the damp ground and wetlands around the Spree and Havel rivers, where the city began. It grew from a meeting point of rivers and trade routes, and it often uses 1237 as its founding milestone. Today, Berlin is a place where the past is always close, but it never stops the present from inventing new ways to live the city. And since this is an aerial film, the beginning feels simple, following lines. Lines of streets, lines of parks, lines of railways. In the heart of Mitte, there's a small, quiet park, Volkspark am Weinberg, also known as Weinberg's Park. It covers about 4.3 hectares and was created in the 1950s, on land heavily affected by the war. The name Weinberg, Vineyard Hill, comes from vineyards that once existed on this slope, long before Berlin became the metropolis it is today. It's the kind of place where the city lowers its volume. People sitting on the grass, soft conversations. And inside the park, one spot stands out. Coccadrillo feels like a built-in pause. Casual, comforting food. The kind of place that matches a European summer. And this is a good moment to talk about how Berlin moves. The city's public transport works like a backbone. And from above, that backbone becomes visible. Trains arriving and leaving, stations stitching neighborhoods together. And the S-Bahn, looping and cutting across Berlin, quietly connecting everyday life. Now the scene shifts, and green takes over. In the middle of the Grunewald forest, a hill rises that shouldn't be there, because it isn't natural. Teufelsberg is an artificial hill, built from rubble and debris after World War II, covering the remains of an unfinished Nazi project. And up on its summit, during the Cold War, a massive listening station was installed. From 1963 onward, the site, known as Field Station Berlin, operated as a strategic surveillance and interception point, monitoring communications, and it remained in use by the Americans through the end of the Cold War. Today, what used to be secrecy has turned into something else, a place people climb to look out over the city. A viewpoint of ruins, white domes, wind, and walls covered in art and graffiti. The former listening station became an informal open-air art space. Interior and exterior surfaces are filled with murals and interventions. Along corridors, stairwells, and under the domes, small temporary exhibitions, installations, and performances appear, often tied to Berlin's independent scene. Creating a striking contrast between a past of surveillance and a present of free expression. Wind, concrete, and the city in the distance become part of the artwork itself. And nearby, almost like a softer counterpoint, there are the Kleingärten, Berlin's allotment gardens, small plots cultivated by residents, a very Berlin way of having a piece of land while living in a capital. They're places for leisure, meeting, and working with soil. At Tempelhofer Feld, where a historic airport once operated, one of Europe's most impressive urban parks exists today. Tempelhof Airport was officially closed on October 30th, 2008, and the field opened as a public park in 2010. Before it became a park, Tempelhof was a symbol. During the Berlin airlift, 1948 to 1949, when the city was blockaded, the airport received a massive supply operation. At its peak, one plane would land every 45 seconds, bringing food, coal, and hope. Today, where aircraft once moved, people do. People running on the former runways, cycling long, straight lines. At Tempelhofer Feld, movement feels wide and free, almost therapeutic. There's also a skate park, where the sound changes. Wheels on concrete, jumps, attempts, spontaneous applause. And there's even an Übungsflugzeug, a training aircraft displayed as a reminder of the site's aviation past. A curious detail in the middle of the vast open space. And speaking of running, Berlin has a special relationship with road racing. The Berlin Marathon has taken place every year since 1974, usually on the last weekend of September, and it has become one of the most iconic races in the world. In this city, running doesn't feel like just sport. It feels like a way of occupying public space. And then it drifts into a place where Berlin rests, the Tiergarten, the central park that works like a huge green lung between monuments and avenues. In its heart, there's a summer classic, Café am Neuen See, with its lakeside beer garden. Beer gardens, in general, have a simple spirit: shared tables, relaxed meetings, long conversations, all accompanied by great German beer and traditional food, like Bratwurst and Currywurst. In summer, Tiergarten feels like another city. People reading in the shade, picnics, bicycles crossing quiet paths. More centrally, a golden presence rises above the treetops, the Siegessäule, the Victory Column. It wasn't originally placed there. It first stood at Königsplatz, but was moved in 1938 to its current location at Grosser Stern, and it gained height during that relocation. From above, it becomes a point of orientation, a bright needle in the middle of green. This is a stretch many people recognize instantly: the East Side Gallery, a preserved section of the Berlin Wall, transformed into an open-air gallery, more than 1.3 kilometers long, painted by artists from around the world shortly after the fall, and officially opened as a gallery in 1990. A piece of history the city decided not to hide, but to rewrite in color. The Berlin Wall was the barrier that, starting in 1961, divided the city into West Berlin and East Berlin, separating families, streets, and daily life throughout the Cold War. More than a wall, it was a full border system: fences, towers, and security zones, created to prevent people from leaving the eastern side. Its fall in 1989 became one of the great symbols of the end of that division in Europe, and it permanently changed how the city connects and recognizes itself. Mauerpark is located where a section of the wall's border zone once stood. After the fall, that area was transformed into open space between dense neighborhoods, and the name Mauerpark keeps that origin alive. Today, the place is known for Sundays, the market held there, with clothes, vintage objects, vinyl records, unexpected finds, and the feeling that Berlin likes to sift through its own past in the lightest way. And now, back to Tiergarten, but in another season. In winter, Tiergarten changes color. The green fades, bare branches draw the sky, and the city feels quieter. The same paths, with a different tone. Close to the park, a place calls for respect and a pause. The memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe, inaugurated in 2005. A field of concrete blocks where the feeling shifts as you move between them. A form of remembrance that doesn't need a raised voice. And just ahead, the view opens onto symbols of the state. The Reichstag, seat of the German parliament. And, at the end, one of the country's most recognized landmarks, the Brandenburg Gate. The gate was built between 1788 and 1791 in a neoclassical style. And over time it became a stage for Germany's history, from empire to division, and from division to reunification. And from above, it looks exactly like that, a portal, a frame for a city that learned how to change, without erasing the marks of what it has lived. Berlin keeps changing, becoming more and more cosmopolitan. And down below, as the lights come on, the city keeps walking, running, cycling. As if every day it's quietly reinventing its own map,